Hey guys, this is part two of the previous video where we were creating some letter forms, some typographic letter forms using design systems and a grid. But at the end of the day, really just kind of having fun with Adobe Illustrator and visual communication. So you can kind of see that we're about more or less halfway, and I've completed two versions of two sets, for example, two W's, two E's, two H's, and I can kind of decide which ones are best or that I'd like to kind of keep for my final upload. And I'm actually about to start the second words or letter form, the second set, and that's for the word Najoni, okay? And I'll be doing that with these artboards that are already set up and using the same design system. I guess in hindsight, just kind of thinking out loud, maybe it would have been interesting to create two separate design systems for two separate words. So that would have been fun. Just kind of food for thought, right? Just as we're doing these creative processes or projects, we have these ideas midway through. I'm going to continue with this design system for the sake of things, but you're welcome to consider that option for creating a separate design system for a separate word, which would create a separate, almost sort of feeling of legibility, right? Especially if you're trying to create, when you put these things on the page, they have a certain way that they read or consistency. And so there's a certain sort of line of consistency running through these letter forms. And if you were to create a new design system for Najoni or the second word, it would have a separate kind of tone or rhythm to how it reads to the user. But that's just an experiment. That's what we do as creatives. We're just constantly thinking, how can I rotate this slightly or torque it slightly to get a unique or different result? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am going to be working on the same layer, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be using a different color. So instead of using cyan, I'm going to be using magenta. Okay. So we need to start with the letter N. This is going to be fun, actually. I'm just kind of looking at this, brainstorming a bit. Can you hear me thinking through this a bit? And I'm kind of using that same technique that I had learned from the last video, where I am kind of scaling out and then scaling in to make the adjustments and I guess reach that level of perfection that I'm happy with. When I'm talking about perfection, I'm talking about just simply the software and the way that you can be really surgical with how those anchor points are placed within the design system. I also currently have smart guides on and things are snapping to point. Okay. All of these points originated from the grid too, the modular grid. So it's kind of it's interesting to me the way these creative ideas kind of they unfold in a sense, and they take you to unexpected places. And that's really what I'm hoping will happen with you all while you're doing this project, is that you'll just go to an unexpected place and have a new experience for for your toolkit when you're brainstorming ideas or thinking about how to move forward. And again, the reason why I want to do two different versions is because I'm just kind of curious how each of them will be different. But I am kind of sketching. You guys can't see it, but in a way, I'm kind of, when I'm working with these letter forms or the words, or excuse me, the just the form of the letters, I'm thinking about these sort of moves that I'm making with my hand on paper and kind of trying to do something similar, if that makes sense. I'm also thinking about balance. Um, again, the way that I created this design system, it has a tendency to kind of skew a little bit, or lean. Maybe that's the better way of putting it. And so that's something I'm kind of thinking about as I'm considering like the general movement of this, the marks that create the letter forms when I'm writing them with my hand, and how I can replicate that with the software. So again, there's always like this back and forth between the technology and what you're doing with your hands too, the tradition. Might have to go back and make some changes, but I think I have an idea of what I want this to be, actually. I made a mistake here. It's starting to look like an M, isn't it? So that's not what I want. It's okay. Delete it, right? Let's take a look at it. Hmm. Honestly, I kind of feel, just following intuition. I kind of feel like this. Right? Sometimes I have a tendency to complicate things, folks. I'm not gonna lie. So what I'm doing here, you always got to take it with a grain of salt, and you're going to find your own path. I guarantee you. Okay. You think that this? I think a little more connective tissue here would be helpful. I could bring it all the way down, but I'm kind of interested in these negative spaces. That's kind of nice too. So I like that. That's a nice N. I really like that. It's a beautiful beginning. I don't want this to be just a little more dynamic. Like these are just things, like this is just tuning. That's all I'm doing, folks. But somehow this is my intuition just telling me to try something. Let's see what happens. I think I might keep that for this version. I'm gonna save it too. Like that. FYI, this is sort of like the male version step of this process. And again, I am going to go back and I want to integrate these. I created these forms in initial video, and I'm following my nose, and I want this to be a part of that process. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to work on it. Okay. I think it's going to be really interesting. That's just an experiment. I jump into the wormhole. The water's warm. I know I'm conflating two different sayings there, but jump into the wormhole. The water is warm. Okay. So we're making some progress. We've got one N. I think this feels a little complicated up here. I think that could be closed up a bit. I'm not ready to make any changes though. And this could actually reach up. Because with an N, there's that beautiful. Yeah, I'm ready to make that change right now. In fact, I am ready. That seems like I know that'll work. So, but in order to do that, I've got to create another anchor point. I've got to drag this guy up here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That does definitely make more sense for me. Okay, let's try this again. And I want to have these unique letter forms. Okay, I'm just kind of following my intuition here, folks. That's all. I could be making fantastic moves, or I could be making horrific mistakes. That's a little bit of humor there for you. I don't think the world is going to begin or end with these things. We're just having fun. You put too much pressure on yourself, it shuts you down your creativity. So you gotta relax. Okay. That's interesting. I kind of like the idea of that being there. I'm going to add another anchor point here. Move it over. Yeah. Cleaning things up, right? I don't know if this is perfect. Just back up. But to me, that feels like a very vertical movement. And now I need to extend that movement down this direction. And by the way, look how I just kind of want to remind you why I put that system on a separate layer. I can make it go away occasionally, so you can kind of see things without, right? And maybe make some corrections and simplify things. Some of these are a little overly complicated, but you can definitely see that relationship of like the substructure or modular grid system that is below the letter forms and all of it is informing what is happening on the above layers or the associated layers. Over here again. And this time I want it feels like I'm about to do something similar, but I'm going to try to change it up a bit if I can. But maybe I'll just go all the way down to the side here. Keep it kind of nice and simple. Again, as I stated earlier, I do have a tendency to really complicate things. And then I almost kind of have to spend some time taking steps backwards. I like this moment right here because that can lead to that swath of information that's going to connect these two guys. I'm going to do my best to keep this simple. At least, oops, actually, I just made a mistake. That's all I need, just a little bit of information to bridge those two verticalities. If I really wanted to be adventurous, I could consider, like I'm seeing that right now as an opportunity. I'm gonna take it, take that opportunity. It's interesting because, I mean, I see I'd be breaking a rule here, but look at this beautiful space right here that was created, and our eyes are almost sort of filling in. I need 2 additional anchor points to make this work. One. I'm seeing a lot of different opportunities now. This moment right here. One, 2. Save. Now, sometimes it's also a good idea to save as. So I'm going to remind folks of that because sometimes files can become corrupted. So save as letterforms 2. And you could even say, version 2. Version is really not the right way to put it, though. Let's say just 1.1, right? So now we've got a brand new copy. So if anything were to happen, we could revert back to the other copy and we wouldn't lose as much time. I'm not sure which one I like better, but they're both kind of nice, right? Now the next one should be relatively easy. Of course, It's easy to say that, but that may not be the truth. But I need two kind of horizontal swaths and then one vertical swath. So I'm going to start, actually, I'm going to do something a little different, guys, just for fun. And I'm just going to, ooh, it's interesting. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to work on both of these guys kind of at the same time. The system wants you to do things a certain way. That's, a little funny metaphor there as far as just life, right? But yeah, let's make these guys a little more bulky, just for fun. I don't know if you guys like the sound of a mouse clicking, but I think it's kind of nice. I think that would be a really, sometimes they have those YouTube videos of like campfires that are 3 hours long. About a YouTube video that's 3 hours long of a mouse clicking. That's relaxing to me. Is that hmm, using my intuition here? I remember I haven't even gotten to that other aspect of the project where I'm gonna place the female forms in relation to the male and see what happens. I see one already, guys. I'm gonna keep it real nice and simple. A beautiful eye. It's my most simple letter form too, but in a way it's doing the job. We've got an issue here, folks. Maybe I can just leave it. Maybe that's okay. That'll drive me crazy. I don't know about you. I can correct that easily. Oops. I need to add some anchor points. There we go. Problem solved. Nice. Hmm. I think I see it. I think I do. Yeah, I think zoom in on that. Yep, that was off. Sometimes you gotta get right up in there. Notice how sometimes I take it away and then put it back. I know it kind of sounds funny, but sometimes it's just the nature of the software and how it functions. And also you'll notice that sometimes things snap a little better, ironically, when you're zoomed out a little further. So zoom out. Definitely interesting. Hmm. Okay. Okay, now these Z's, right? In a sense, we kind of have to do something similar to what we just did with these sort of swaths of information. So we're going to go boom, boom, boom. Naturally, this guy kind of already wants to. Marty, I think I should start with these tops again. Hmm. This, this way of thinking really kind of comes from my training in architecture, in all honesty. When you approach a site, you're trying to understand the site. And so you end up kind of creating these leading lines that kind of carve out the nature of the site and reveal things to you. And I found it to be useful in a lot of different ways, whether it's painting or drawing. But this is sort of what you're seeing me do here is just something that comes from my experience. And I think that's why I'm really excited about the results of this project from each of you, because your own experiences, of course, will lead you to do things in a certain way, which is what makes your design voice absolutely yours. Here's the part where I can feel like I like this moment right here. It might sound a little crazy, but I feel like I think I got it. I just kind of panned out, and then again I kind of panned back in. And again, there's that situation where I always have this center where the thing, I wish I had a little more flexibility in this area. And so I think that's something I've learned from this process. And that if I were to do this project a second time, I would consider that when I was developing my design system. Because I need more connective tissue here, frankly. But this maybe should almost kind of reach a little further to the right. So I'm going to modify things. I'm learning as I'm going, folks, right? Let's take this all the way to the edge here. And I almost feel like what I had there was working. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Save. Let's do that again. Instead of working from these, I mean, that's another thing you can do when you're experimenting. You just think, okay, with this particular Z, I kind of started with, these swaths that are working parallel to each other. What about working with the diagonal first and foremost? Just a simple change like that can modify your process towards something unique. Again, there's that center that's been driving me crazy. Let's see. So we just changed the process and how we work a little bit, and through when we change the process, a different result is inevitable. Hmm. Okay. I'm processing here, guys. Bear with me. I have a feeling that this can be a little more simple this time around, perhaps. Repress that urge to complicate the heck out of things. Hmm. I I love Illustrator now as much as I ever did. I mean, certain things just really stay with you. And Illustrator to me has just been such a powerful tool in my career as an artist. It's really been helpful. I'm gonna make a few changes here. And I'm following my nose. I have a feeling though that this will work. Yeah, I think I like that second Z. It turned out much more beautiful. Again, if I were to do a third, a fourth, a fifth, or a sixth Z, I mean, if I were really doing a full throttle, like typeface exploration and design, this could go on for months and months and years and years. Of course, this is a 2-week project, so you have to understand or respect the scope. And by the way, look at the difference between these ends. I mean, this one just, to me, works a little bit more clearly. This one, it got too complicated. And this, for some reason, this second Z really worked. Sometimes I got it on the first try, though. I'm really happy with this M, for example. Oh man, you guys, I am really excited to start working with this stuff. That is going to be fun. Just introducing a variable. Boom. See what happens. Save it. Zoom in. Well, and of course, Nizhoni. So we're getting there. So we need to do a couple more H's, right? And I'm not just going to copy and paste these. There's a reason why each of these letter forms are kind of lovingly being explored, passionately being explored. Okay. Um, and that third and fourth H that I'm about to create, maybe they're my best. So I've already gone through that process twice. So you got to keep your endurance up and try not to take any of those shortcuts. All right, folks. Okay. So remember, similar to the Z's, I kind of started with the parallels. And with the H's, I think I started with the verticals. But with these two H's, I'm going to start with the one parallel that's supposed to run right smack in the middle. That's where I'm going to begin with this circumstance. See where it takes me. Whoops. How that happened, I can fix that in a moment. I think I can just, again, I'm also learning that I don't need to make all of these guys really complicated. I don't need to make these unnecessary moves every time. I'm learning to relax. I don't need this one. Just that one. This guy needs to be. Leave here. Zoom in to double check. Looks good. I'm adding a little complication here, guys. Just warn you. I can undo it later if I need to. Oh, I gotta. I'm back on track. Hmm. This is going. Now imagine this technique being used to create a logo for a company or a band, or there's too much information here. I think I'm gonna have to edit a little bit. I'm not quite happy with that. Just kind of want this rest there. This is gonna have to be better. And I think I know what to do here. It's a very simple solution. I'm gonna work up here. Love that. I know what to do next. I have everyone, each of you are developing spidey sense with this process where you sense things. Okay. And I just had a really good moment where I saw it in my head and I knew that's the solution. It's simple, but beautiful. I think that being a designer is being an artist. Just using a different kind of tool, the tools of expectations. I'm getting a little bit of curve there, which is driving me nuts. Sometimes when you're working a little bit too quickly, you can have a tendency to drag the anchor point. And that's what happened here. See that? So I'm gonna have to get rid of it and start over. Got it. Okay. It's not a bad H. I like it. In fact, it might be my favorite. Hmm. Hmm. The processing folks, just kind of looking at things. Okay, we need another H. And again, I'm going to start with that parallel in the middle. I'm going to change my process, and that actually helped, I think, just simply changing the process a bit. I see a good solution right there too. You see how this works good is I think some kind of intuition is starting to kick in as I've kind of delved into this process a bit further. I think it's just an intuitive understanding of the diagram and what it can do for me, but also what it's not doing for me. So in other words, what to embrace and what to avoid. I do believe that's happening here. Hmm. I'm gonna try to keep this again kind of relatively simple. And Save it. Let's see here. Now I need the O. I mean, I can kind of see an O here really naturally, but it's just not dynamic enough. I want it to be like something a little more. But I think it does make sense. Let me just map this out real quick. I'm going to sort of wrap the perimeter in a sense. Kind of have a feeling that that'll work nicely. Second, folks. Something weird just happened. Hmm. Bear with me, I'm being a little experimental here. Okay, let's just close the loop. Zoom in, make some adjustments. These two anchor points are going to be living on top of each other. Let's see. Kind of live with that. See that kind of processing what I'm seeing here, folks. I'm gonna come back to that O. All right, looks like I'm gonna have an opportunity to do a couple more N's, right? So again, just gonna create these verticals really nice and clearly. Sometimes it does help, guys, to just simply, write the letter on a sticky note in your desk area. Just write a letter N and just notice how you're creating it with your hand. It's going to start with this. It's just real like beautiful gestural moves. And it's kind of funny, you've been making N's your whole life, right? Usually it's just 1, 2, 3, but what happens when you make an N with all these different, uh, changes? Redefines what an N is. There's a boom, boom, boom. I need this move. I need a movement. I need a movement. I think I know what I want. I wonder if I need some additional tissue. There's that moment again, guys. For better or worse, it's there. Constantly having to deal with it. I think I need some tissue here. And a good way to correct that would be to just simply to add an anchor point actually over here. Oops. And drag that puppy up that direction. Yeah, I like that. It's different. Save. We're getting close to the end of phase 2, right? Hmm. We're working on the O this time. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of, I worked on the very far exterior last time, and I think I am going to use I know what I can do. Isn't that amazing? Like, with just a little time and experience under your belt. And then the pieces or the stars kind of start to align or feel more comfortable. Not every O is going to be perfect. It's a metaphorical statement. Okay, keep going, right? Hmm. It definitely wants to move. There's that leaning that is happening with the typeface. And I think I'm gonna have to go with it. I can't go against it right now. You gotta be strategic about when to swim upstream and when to follow the current. In general, though, I don't think that you should have to fight design. That makes sense. It's better if it happens a little more naturally. I think folks can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. And it's a different kind of O, but it works. I like this idea that I've kind of discovered in this process where I'm working with the gestural moments instead of thinking about how everything is, essentially kind of breaking down the letter forms or the parts of the letter forms. Even when I'm doing this process, that's been helpful for me. Now that would be a beautiful C, right? Of course, we've got to close the loop. And I really am going to keep this one. My intuition is telling me to stop complicating and just and do what's natural. Allow the O to be an O, not an abstract sculpture. Let's zoom out. I'm not sure if that's my favorite O, but I think this one turned out a little bit more interesting. But if this were carved out a little bit right here, it would be more dynamic. Let's take a look at that real quick. Sorry, folks, some last minute changes, right? So all I gotta do is delete some anchor points. Oops. That doesn't quite work, does it? I'm gonna ironically add one back. All right, now I think I'm a little happier with that. I could still tune it. I could continue tuning this stuff, folks, forever, really. Like I said, days, weeks, months. And if you're a serious typeface designer, years. Um, I'm going to move really fast with this N. I'm just going to move as fast as possible. And I want to see what happens. Let's increase the speed variable and see what happens. And I'm completely just kind of following my intuition. So that's me breaking down the parts of the letter N with those two verticals, and also just trying to move quickly because that's a whole nother variable in itself. just go fast. That's why sketching is so powerful. That's a speed variable happening there. So I don't want to make any changes. I want to remain true right now for some reason to my additional or to my existing vision for that speed. But you can kind of see this is trying to reach out for that last element that'll complete the end. It's nice. So let's unpack, let's just examine this for a moment. And I think I know what to do, folks. Add it up. This is fun. Love this stuff, guys. That one is unnecessary. Let's zoom out, see what happened. If we can go further. I have a feeling that this tissue right here will help the situation. Almost. Yeah, a little happier. I think that's not the best end that I've made this afternoon or morning, but it was an interesting experiment. Folks, we almost there's some sort of end for part two, but again, that's not the end because I want to integrate these guys as well. So we need two real fast eyes. Let's do it. Let's put some gas in the engine and just go. Oops. Okay, that was very fast, that's for sure, right? And I want this to have a real heavy bottom. Feel heavy. But on the edge there, I want a little bit of breathing space. And really, it's almost got to go directly up and down, not because we don't want it to be confused with a Z or an N. So it's got to be pretty darn vertical. So I have an idea. I'll make this interesting. I think I got it. Let's see if that's acceptable. Again, that was pretty fast. Sometimes those fast, intuitive decisions are the right ones, and sometimes not. Um, this is sort of what I'm trying to do here. Really, I'm not convinced that I need these. It's just I'm not sure if it's the right one. I got it. Got it. Just let's leave it like that. Hmm. Reflecting a little bit, folks. All right, one last, and I'm going to take an opposite perspective or approach. Just want this verticality, just running right through, just boom, just run through there. Simple. Course correction. Spidey sense is tingling. I see an opportunity. Uh, this area down here is a little less flexible. That's one thing I'm realizing from my diagram as well. But I'm actually going to work from each of these sides uniquely or separately. And breaking, I guess really what I just did there is I'm just breaking the visual problem apart a little bit and working on things individually. Almost there. Yeah, like that. Okay. I see it. Yeah, you guys, there's probably some overlap happening with all of these things because it's the same designer doing it, but it's also the same diagram that's guiding me. So I don't have I mean, that's just the way this works, but you know, that's why I'm constantly using this, talking about variables and sort of alternating my approach to solving these letter form problems. Because you can, believe it or not, you can still find a lot of variability even when the designer is the same and the design system is the same. So that's the end of part 2 for this project. And part 3 will be using these beautiful forms that I had got made in really video 1, and they've been waiting for me. And I've actually been thinking about those guys, or gals rather is more appropriate to say. I've been thinking about those gals and how to integrate them into this beautiful design. So I'll see you on the other side.